This is Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. For over a quarter century, You Had Me at I Do has been helping couples say, I do. We bring more than 400 weddings of real-world experience as an officiant and a DJ, and this podcast is packed with what you, as the bride and groom, need to know, what you're wondering about, and what's keeping you up at night. No judgment, no fluff, just real answers and ideas for real planning. Here's today's episode.
What if the most generous, absolutely most expensive gift you ever receive ends up just completely costing you your sanity?
Oh, that is a terrifying thought right out of the gate.
Right. But, I mean, just picture this scenario for a second. You have spent months, maybe even years, meticulously curating this perfect vision for a massive life event.
Like a wedding, for example.
Exactly. For the sake of argument, let's say it's your wedding. You have the exact color palette locked in. You know precisely what the vibe is going to be. You can practically hear the string quartet playing in the background.
You've got the whole Pinterest board brought to life in your head.
Completely. And then a phenomenally generous check arrives from your parents. And in that first second, it is just this massive shoulder-dropping relief.
Oh, totally. Because weddings are ridiculously expensive.
So expensive.
Yeah.
But almost instantly, alongside that check comes a very casual suggestion about the venue. And then, a few days later, a thought about the catering.
And we all know where this is going.
Yep. Suddenly, your intimate 60-person botanical garden ceremony is rapidly morphing into a sprawling hotel ballroom gala for like 200 people you barely even know.
It happens so often, and it's incredibly stressful.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into the incredibly tricky, highly emotional intersection of family money, personal boundaries, and wedding planning.
Which is such a minefield for so many people.
It's a total minefield. To guide us through this, we are leaning into some brilliant insights from Chris Truitt in a piece titled, When Parents Pay and the Opinions Follow.
And Chris really knows what he's talking about here.
Oh, he brings heavy-hitting real-world credentials to this. 26 years and over 400 weddings working on the front lines as an officiant and a DJ.
He has literally seen it all play out in real time.
He really has. And mentioned that this material comes from a larger body of work called Planning Your I Do, which is guidance provided by You Had Me at I Do.
It is such a vital, universally relatable topic for you to understand.
Yeah, because money makes everything complicated.
It does. Whether you are actively in the trenches of planning a wedding right now, anticipating a big family event in the horizon, or honestly, if you are just fascinated by the beautifully messy reality of family dynamics, this applies to you.
Definitely. It's about how families operate under pressure.
Exactly. The core conflict established right from the jump is one of profound duality. Generous parents are, objectively speaking, a massive blessing.
Of course. Nobody's complaining about free money.
Right, but they can also be an incredible challenge to navigate. Couples often find themselves sitting in this bizarre, paralyzing emotional cocktail.
Where they feel intensely grateful, but also totally stressed.
Yes, they feel grateful for the financial help, but completely stressed, racked with guilt, and deeply frustrated, all at the exact same time. What's fascinating here is how openly couples wrestle with this modern dilemma today.
Because it used to be so different, right?
Oh, completely. A generation ago, the rule was simple. Whoever paid the bill called the shots. End of story. But today, you see couples agonizing over this power dynamic.
They're trying to figure out if it's even worth it.
Right. They're asking themselves these really heavy questions like, is this money actually worth it if I lose my entire vision? Am I obligated to invite all of their golf buddies?
Which is the classic wedding dilemma.
It is. And they wonder, can I say a heartfelt thank you for the check and still say a firm no to the strings attached to it?
That tension is so real.
Yeah.
But before we get into the practical how-to of solving this, we really need to understand the emotional root of all this friction.
Because it's never just about the logistics.
Exactly. It goes way deeper than picking out napkins. There is this incredibly striking quote from the source that perfectly encapsulates this dilemma. I couldn't do this without their help, but I don't want their wedding.
Wow. That hits the nail right on the head.
It really got me thinking about how we treat gifts in every other area of life. It's like someone buying you a brand new car. It's an amazing, life-changing gift.
But there's a catch.
Right. They insist they get to drive it every single weekend. They demand to choose the radio station, and they decide where you're allowed to drive it.
At a certain point, that doesn't even feel like a gift anymore.
No. It stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like control disguised as care. Okay, let's unpack this. Why does this specific financial gift money for a wedding so quickly devolve into a bitter power struggle?
Over whether the centerpieces should be hydrangeas or roses.
Yeah, exactly. Why does it get so intense?
Well, to understand the mechanics of that power struggle, you really have to look at the parents' perspective. This isn't just a financial transaction for them.
It's way more emotional than that.
Much more. For a lot of parents, paying for a wedding is viewed psychologically as one of the last big, monumental acts of care they will ever perform for their child.
Oh, like before the child fully transitions out of the nest.
Exactly, before they move into their own independent family unit. So the money isn't just currency to them. It is highly emotional and deeply symbolic of their changing role in your life.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
It does. However, wrapped up in all that heavy emotion is often a very powerful, completely unspoken belief. And that belief is simply, I'm paying, so I get a say.
Ah, there it is, the strings.
Right. And the really tricky part is that this belief rarely announces itself as a strict boardroom-style demand. Usually it manifests as those innocent suggestions you mentioned earlier.
Like, oh, wouldn't Aunt Linda love this venue?
Yes, a suggestion about the guest list here, a thought about the menu there. But when you, as the couple, choose to politely decline that advice, those casual suggestions suddenly turn into deeply hurt feelings.
Because they feel rejected?
Exactly, and that's usually accompanied by the classic guilt-inducing line, "We're just trying to help."
Oh, that line is a killer.
It really is. But understanding this underlying emotional impulse is critical. It doesn't mean you have to surrender your vision to it.
So you don't just cave.
No. But it does mean you can address the real issue at play, which is the fear of losing control in the shifting family dynamic, rather than having a massive, exhausting fight about table decorations.
Exactly. Because if you're arguing with your mom about the font on the invitations, you're not actually arguing about the font.
You're arguing about something much bigger.
You're arguing about autonomy. You're arguing about who is in the driver's seat of your adult life. So if the root issue here is these unspoken emotional expectations hovering over the checkbook, how do we drag those into the light?
Without causing a complete family feud.
Yeah, exactly. One of the most practical tools for this is something called the contribution map. But I have to play the role of the skeptical learner here and push back on this concept just a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
The idea is essentially to get a clear, written agreement with your parents about what their money actually buys. Isn't that a bit cold?
You mean like it's too formal?
Yeah, like imagine bringing a corporate spreadsheet to a Sunday family dinner and sliding it across the mashed potatoes. Doesn't that heavily structured approach just kill the joy and spontaneity of the gift?
I get that. That is a very natural pushback.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Because it's a fear a lot of couples have. But it's crucial to clarify that a contribution map is not a legally binding contract.
So no lawyers involved.
No, you aren't bringing in lawyers and having your parents sign in blood. It is simply a very clear, honest conversation that is captured on paper or even just summarized in a casual follow-up email.
Okay, that sounds much less intimidating.
It is. The reason you do this is so that nobody's memory becomes the authority later.
Oh, because family memory is so reliable.
Huh, right. We all know exactly how family memory works. It is highly subjective, heavily influenced by emotion, and it shifts over time. The map exists to eliminate ambiguity, because ambiguity is what breeds anxiety.
That makes total sense. So what goes on this map?
It answers 4 very specific, vital questions up front. First, how much is the contribution, and is it a hard cap or an open-ended offer?
Right, because knowing if a budget is finite completely changes how you spend it.
Exactly. Second, what exact categories does the money cover? Is it exclusively for the venue, the catering, the flowers, or is it a general fund?
And the third question.
Third, and this is the absolute biggest point of contention, who makes the final decisions in those categories?
Yeah, that's the heavy hitter.
It really is. And fourth, what specific areas are you, the couple, genuinely open to their input on? Let's ground this with a real-world example from the text.
Please do.
Imagine your parents are contributing $25,000.
Which is an incredibly generous gift.
Huge. So the map clarifies that this money is earmarked specifically for the venue and catering, However, it explicitly states that you and your partner retain the absolute final choice on which venue to book and who is on the guest list.
So the parents don't just get to invite everyone they know.
Exactly. But to honor their gift, you warmly welcome their input on the menu options and on incorporating specific family traditions into the reception.
I love the mechanics of that distinction. It's essentially saying your immense generosity gets you a highly respected voice in these specific areas, but it does not buy you the steering wheel to the entire event.
That is a perfect way to phrase it.
It defines the boundaries before anyone can accidentally cross them.
Precisely. And there is an amazing anecdote that perfectly illustrates why putting this on paper is so effective.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
So there was a couple whose parents generously offered to pay for the entire reception. Incredible gift, right?
I mean, that's the dream.
But lingering beneath that offer was a quiet, creeping assumption from the parents that every single family friend from the last 3 decades would automatically be invited.
Oh, no. That is a recipe for a massive blow-up.
It really was. So instead of freaking out or waiting for the inevitable fight over the seating chart, the couple wrote a polite, loving, one-page note.
Just laying it all out.
Yeah. They expressed deep, genuine gratitude for the gift. But in that same note, they were crystal clear that due to their vision for the day, the guest list was going to be capped strictly at 80 people, period.
Wow. That is setting a firm boundary.
It is. But to soften that boundary, they also detailed exactly how they plan to honor both sets of parents during the ceremony and the toasts.
And the result? I mean, were the parents furious?
The parents weren't angry or insulted at all. Initially, they were a little surprised by the formality, but after a few days, they were actually profoundly relieved.
Relieved. That feels counterintuitive.
Right.
You'd think they would be offended that their friends were cut from the list they were paying for.
Yeah.
Why would setting a strict limit on their own money bring them relief?
Because it removed the burden of the unknown. Those parents didn't actually want the logistical nightmare of planning a massive, sprawling wedding.
They just wanted to help their child celebrate.
Exactly. By providing absolute clarity and taking the reins, the couple allowed everyone to relax. The parents no longer had to wonder, guess, or gently manipulate to see where they stood. The boundaries made them feel safe.
That is wild, but it makes so much sense. But as you pointed out, knowing what you want on a map is great in theory. Where this entire process often falls apart for couples is in the actual execution.
Yes, the confrontation part.
Moving from the safety of a private spreadsheet to sitting on the living room couch and having that conversation is where the rubber meets the road.
Yes, the physical sweaty palms reality of speaking the actual words out loud. It's terrifying for a lot of people.
It's awful. This brings us to the tactical scripts Chris Truitt provides.
Which are so helpful.
They really are. The heavy emphasis here is that these conversations require real preparation and a deep foundation of kindness. This cannot be a sudden ambush over appetizers.
Or an accusation of manipulation.
Exactly. You have to initiate this conversation before a single deposit is paid. Once money officially changes hands, fluid opinions instantly harden into concrete expectations, and reversing that is nearly impossible.
It's so much harder to undo it later.
So true. But let me ask you a practical question about human behavior here. How do you actually hold the line in that high-pressure moment?
When you're sitting face-to-face with them.
Yeah, you're sitting there, your parents just offered you a life-changing sum of money. But it is blatantly obvious that the money has massive strings attached. How do you respond without sounding incredibly ungrateful?
That is the exact moment where couples usually cave, because the pressure is immense. But there's a very specific script designed for that exact high-pressure moment.
Okay, lay it on us.
When you sense those strings attached to the check, the script goes like this. We are so incredibly grateful you're willing to help us. We need the guest list and the overall vision of the day to stay ours. Are you comfortable contributing with that understanding?
Wow. That is direct.
It is, but notice what that does. It leads with profound gratitude, it clearly states the unmovable boundary, and then it asks for their affirmative consent.
It puts the decision back on them.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what you are fundamentally doing with that script is establishing crucial adult-to-adult boundaries.
Which is a huge transition.
You are actively shifting the family dynamic. You are moving away from the old parent-child dynamic, where the parent dictates the rules and the child obeys, to an adult-to-adult relationship, where two equal, respectful parties are negotiating a shared event.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if they agree, but then push back on your choices a month later?
Ah, the classic bait and switch.
Right, because that happens all the time.
There is a script for that, too. It involves a psychological tactic, a gentle deflection combined with immediate inclusion.
Okay, how does that sound?
You say, we hear that you feel strongly about this venue. We're going to move forward with what we've decided, but we would absolutely love your help with. And then you immediately offer them a specific alternative role.
Oh, that is slick.
You are holding the boundary from we are moving forward, but making sure they don't feel entirely shut out or dismissed.
It's like verbal judo. We hear you, we're doing it our way anyway, but look, here's a shiny, important new project just for you. It's brilliant because it acknowledges their feelings without yielding control. But as much as we love a good script, we have to talk about the elephant in the room.
What happens when it all goes wrong?
Right. What happens if you do everything right? You prepare, you're kind, you use the perfectly crafted scripts, and it completely fails.
It happens.
What if the parents simply aren't comfortable with the boundaries you've laid out, and the strings attached to the money are just pulled way too tight?
That is a really tough spot to be in.
It is. This brings up the hardest, most gut-wrenching, but sometimes most necessary option on the table, declining the money entirely.
Which nobody wants to do.
So what does this all mean? It means sometimes, for the sake of your relationship and your sanity, you have to walk away from the check.
Yeah, you have to protect your peace.
Exactly. There's a powerful story about a couple who turned down a very significant, completely life-altering financial contribution from their family.
Why on earth would they do that?
Because taking the money required them to invite nearly 40 extra guests they didn't know and to use a specific venue that they absolutely hated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the emotional tax on that free money was just too high, so they said no. They opted for a 60-person backyard wedding instead, paying for it themselves.
That takes a lot of guts.
It does. And 2 years later, they looked back and called that declined check the best money they never took.
That phrase, the best money they never took, is incredibly profound.
It really sticks with you.
It highlights the true hidden cost of conditional gifts. It's not just about the dollars, it's about the emotional toll. Knowing exactly when to walk away is vital, and there are specific criteria for when it is time to politely decline the help.
What are those criteria?
Well, you should strongly consider keeping full financial control when the help comes with explicit conditions that fundamentally ruin your vision for the day.
That makes sense, like the venue they hated.
Right. Or when every single casual passing chat about the wedding instantly devolves into a highly stressful negotiation. Ugh, that sounds exhausting.
It is. Another massive red flag is when you and your partner start fighting with each other about how much influence to surrender to your parents.
Oh, when it starts turning you against each other.
Exactly. If the gift is causing cracks in your relationship, it's too expensive. And finally, you decline the money when the sheer exhausting emotional stress of managing everyone's expectations heavily outweighs the financial benefit of the check.
So true.
And declining money in this scenario is not an insult to the people who generously offered it. It is simply a profound act of choosing alignment over convenience.
Choosing alignment over convenience, that is such a powerful framework for life, not just weddings.
It really is.
Because paying for it yourselves comes with its own heavy realities. It might mean a much longer engagement while you save up, or radically slashing the guest list, or choosing a completely different season for the wedding.
Which is hard, but it's yours.
Exactly. It means walking down the aisle without a heavy heart full of resentment. You own the day. And that feeling of peace, you literally cannot put a price tag on that. You really can't.
But okay, let's say you've made the hard choice. You've politely declined the big check. Or you've successfully used the contribution map to heavily restrict what their money buys.
You still have to deal with the parents.
Right. You still love your parents deeply. You still want them to feel incredibly special and honored on this massive day. How do we give them that feeling of importance without accidentally handing them a steering wheel again?
This is where you have to get creative with meaningful delegation.
Meaningful delegation, okay.
You give them roles that provide a deep sense of importance without giving them veto power over the actual event logistics.
I like that distinction.
Remember, at the core of this, most parents don't actually want the headache of running the logistics of your wedding.
Right, they don't want to actually call the caterer.
Exactly. They just want undeniable proof that they matter to you. So you give them roles that loudly honor their place in your life.
Like what kind of roles?
This could look like asking them to give the primary welcome speech at the rehearsal dinner. It could be having them escort the grandparents down the aisle in the formal processional.
Oh, those are highly visible things.
Very visible. It could be something deeply personal and nostalgic, too, like putting them in charge of choosing a beloved generational family recipe to feature on the dessert table.
Oh, I love that idea.
Or asking them to curate a beautiful photo display of your childhoods for the cocktail hour. You could ask them to do a meaningful reading during the ceremony, or to officially host the out-of-town family for a farewell brunch the morning after.
Those are fantastic options.
When parents feel genuinely included in these very real, highly visible, emotionally resonant ways, their need to feel important is satisfied. Consequently, they are often much less driven to assert control or nitpick in the areas where you firmly ask them to step back.
Because they're busy with their own special project. It perfectly feeds that deep emotional need they have to contribute and be recognized publicly as the parents of the couple, without them needing to control the napkin colors to feel involved.
Exactly. They get the spotlight without the steering wheel.
And there is one more fantastic, highly practical logistical tip for when both sets of parents want to be involved and give input. Because that happens a lot, right?
But constantly.
How do you manage the flow of information so nobody feels left out?
This is a brilliant strategy for avoiding accidental family rivalries.
Let's hear it.
To prevent the planning process from turning into a subtle competition for your attention, you must loop both sets of parents in at the exact same time whenever possible.
Oh, so you don't tell one family first.
Exactly. Whether it's a group text, a joint dinner, or an email update, share the news simultaneously. That way, nobody ever feels like they are the secondary family who only gets the leftovers of your time or hears the news secondhand.
That is so smart. Because feelings get hurt so easily over that stuff.
They really do. Furthermore, when you do share these updates, you must present your decisions as already finalized facts.
So no open-ended questions.
Right. You say, "We are so thrilled to share that we've officially chosen a garden ceremony in September, full stop." You do not present your choices as an open-ended poll that accidentally invites lobbying, debate, or alternative suggestions.
Right. Because the moment you say, "We're thinking about September. What do you guys think?" you have essentially invited them to the negotiation table.
Exactly. You've opened the door.
But if you state it as a finalized fact, you are closing the door to debate while still sharing the joy, which perfectly sums up the absolute core thesis of this whole deep dive for you, the listener.
It really comes down to clear communication.
It does. You do not have to make a painful choice between accepting your parents' generous help and having the beautiful wedding you've been dreaming of. What you actually have to choose is honest, slightly uncomfortable expectations over quiet, unclear ones.
You have to have the hard conversations.
Deep gratitude for a financial gift and firm, unyielding boundaries around that gift can and absolutely must coexist.
They have to.
As Chris Trua points out, after navigating over 400 of these events, the happiest, most relaxed couples standing at the altar aren't necessarily the ones whose parents threw the most money at the catering.
Nope, that doesn't buy happiness.
They're the couples who did the hard, awkward, sweaty palms work of figuring this power dynamic out before the save the dates ever went out in the mail.
They put the work in early.
They ensured that when the actual wedding day arrived, everyone's mental and emotional energy was entirely focused on celebrating the marriage rather than silently keeping score.
This raises an important question, though, doesn't it?
Oh, I'm sure it does. What is it?
We've been talking entirely about wedding planning today, but the implications of this behavior stretch far, far beyond a single party.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
If setting clear boundaries around a wedding budget and managing heavy family expectations is this crucial for a couple's healthy transition into marriage, it makes you wonder about the future.
The future of the family dynamics, you mean?
Exactly. How might the way you and your partner navigate this exact financial conflict with your parents right now act as a crystal clear predictor for how you'll handle future family boundaries?
Oh, wow. Because it doesn't stop at the wedding.
No, because let's be honest, this won't be the last time money and opinions mix. How will you navigate it when they offer a massive down payment for your first house, but have very strong opinions on the neighborhood you choose?
That is a very real scenario.
Or when they generously offer to pay for a grandchild's private schooling, but suddenly want a massive say in how you raise and discipline your kids.
Yikes. That is heavy.
The communication dynamics and the boundaries you establish right now over hydrangeas and guest lists are setting the precedent for the rest of your lives together.
Wow. Yeah, when you frame it like that, the wedding really is just the warm-up act, isn't it?
It really is.
It brings us right back to that brand new car sitting in your driveway.
Yeah.
Setting the rules right now about who gets to hold the keys, who gets to pick the radio station, and who gets to decide the destination might just be the most important foundational investment you ever make in your relationship.
It absolutely is.
It's certainly something to keep in mind the next time a generous but complicated offer comes your way. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to Planning Your I Do from You Had Me at I Do. Show notes, planning help, and ceremony support are at youhadmeatido.com/podcast. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and send it to a bride friend who needs answers instead of more stress at 2 in the morning. Thanks for listening.